Students, welcome to the dissertation workshop brought to you by IT Mauritius, Cyber City ACM chapter, IT on campus, UTM IEEE student branch, ACM student chapter, and as speaker, we have Dr. Ismail Isakji, senior engineer, meta coach, and trainer. I am Yohan Hamjiban, your MC for today. For any queries, please drop your messages in the Q&A section below. But first of all, I would like to congratulate every single one of you for making it to year 3. But now awaits our most common enemy, our worst nightmare, the dreaded dissertation. So let's start here today on our rampage to slay this beast. So quick shout out to the pillars of this workshop, Irfan Ali Subrati, Bhavesh Nandan, Muzakir, Din Mohammed, and our dear team. So brace yourself, brothers and sisters. The game is now on. Dr. Ismail, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, MC. So thank you to all participants. Thank you to the organizers for having thought about organizing such a workshop. So you should be seeing my slide right today. So I had this idea in mind for maybe about 6 months. I advertised it on my Facebook account. And then, fortunately, okay, this group of gentlemen and ladies that we have here, they approached me and said, why not do it on maybe, let's call that a national level, isn't it? So you have so many participants who have registered, I think over 1,000, maybe 1,500, things like that. So it's wide, and the topic is most likely interesting, important for you. And so if I was to organize it, it would have been maybe limited to maybe 100 participants due to my Zoom account. Now that you have a Zoom account, which can handle so much of people. And so do you know, today is Thursday, we are having a very good movie on MBC channel. So why not shift over there? Okay, maybe this one is going to be more important for you, more interesting. So it's going to be long. Okay, it's not going to be like our usual workshop of 1 hour. Most likely, because of the number of slides, what I have to cover is going to be around 2 hours. I will try to stick to this 2 hours, maybe time period. But now you will need to be equipped. Okay, you will need to be equipped. It's not that you're going to have dinner, you're going to have a few peanuts and so on, drinking your tea or coffee, whatsoever. You need to have your maybe a pencil, a notebook, whatsoever, because I'm going to give you access. I'm going to throw golden nuggets, golden coins, okay, to you. And you will need to be able to get all these nuggets. Okay, so it's not going, I'm not going to share the slides. I understand that this is being recorded. You can view the recording later on, but it's more interesting to watch the match when it is live, isn't it? Okay, so get ready, get your pen, paper, and so on, because I'm going to throw it to you from different angles, different perspective. You may be getting that from different maybe points as well from you, from where you are standing, where you are maybe in your dissertation journey. Maybe you are going to start in maybe 1 year or 2 years, or you are already in this journey right now and you need this push. Okay, and you're going to get the push. Don't worry about that. So let's get started. So there you go, guys. Let me just pin my video. Okay, there you go. So dissertation writing. Whatever I'm going to cover today is not going to be the best way but not necessarily the best way, I must admit, but it is my way. So what is your way? What's so special about his way, this guy? Okay, so just to let you know that, okay, I'm not bragging whatsoever, but it is some form, just to let you know that what I have been doing in terms of dissertation. When I did my MBA, so I got the award for the best MBA across Africa. Okay, so this was maybe due to my dissertation, not for the MBA, but the dissertation was awarded the first prize across Africa. And for my PhD, so when I submitted my PhD, I think last year, I had 2 corrections to do. Okay, and this was one S missing. We are going to see the difference between the British English and the UK English. And this is what we are going. There was 1 or 2, not mistake, but just needed to change these 2 words ultimately. So I spend lots of time before submitting my work. I have got so many, not experience, but I've read a lot about it, and I had maybe some tricks, some tips, some technique, some method, which I use, and I want to give that to you today. So it may not be the best way. You may find different ways as well, maybe which are better suited for you, but at least try to listen, try to get maybe the essence of it, and then you can use your own way, because there's no single way of approaching a dissertation. So the title is Not the Best Way, but My Way. There you go. So if you don't know me, there you see, I think I've been introduced earlier on, but I won't lose time on this one. I'm basically a senior engineer at the Central Electricity Board. I've been working there for the past 16 years now. And I'm also been lecturing at different universities across the island for the past 12 years or so. Okay. And I love coaching. I'm a leadership coach. Okay, I'm certified with John Maxwell team, and maybe next time we can have much more time to discuss about leadership. So how can you reach me? You have my email address, my mobile phone number, okay, and then you have my website where you can have much more information. So let's get started, guys. So I'm not like a guru in terms of dissertation writing. I base myself on books which have been written by these authors, okay, renowned authors. So all the content that are, not all, maybe 90% of the content have been taken from there. And then I've given my 10% in terms of my touch, because I'm currently like, I've been working MSc project and maybe first degree projects and so on. So, and supervision as well. So I know a bit about, okay, what was the loophole, where the student gets some difficulty. And this is what I wanted to maybe stress on today. So most of these, what you're going to see is just a compilation of all these books. And you will see in terms of the slide, at times when I've borrowed an idea from there, I've put the link below. Okay, you can take pictures whatsoever of this slide, and I think the recording is going to be shared with you later on as well. So feel free, but not the slide won't be, else it's going to be too easy. Okay, so 3 main pillars that we are going to study today. Number 1 is academic writing. So we are not, let's get it right from the beginning. We're not here to discuss about writing love letters. I think you know this better than me now. Okay, so we are here to talk about technical writing, specifically academic writing. Number 1, important part. Okay, number 2 is a dissertation itself, the structure. What do you need to put in there? Okay, this is maybe if you take it as a sandwich, so you have the bottom one. Let's see, the bottom one is referencing the dissertation is a meat, or maybe if you're veg, maybe veg patty and so on. Then you have the top, maybe the salad and so on, then the top sandwich. So it's like we just need to eat each and every one of these. Okay, so if you're ready, if you're not having dinner, let's go and eat this one. So first one, academic writing. Let's get started with academic writing. Oh my God, hey there. I know how to write English. Maybe some of you are saying that. What all this fuss about academic writing? I know I've been writing English for the past 20 years. Okay, so many I've been doing, I have got A's, 1s, and so on with Cambridge and so on. That's very good, but that was in for another exam. You examine on another scope. Now it's changed. It's still going to be English, but we need to be aware there are some differences between the usual English that we have had in SC or HSC and what we call the academic writing that we are going to see. So what is the difference? So academic writing, okay, it starts with number 1. Let me just share that. Short sentences. I know, I've been there as well. We have a tendency from what our background is to write different types of things just to show, maybe not unintentionally or intentionally whatsoever. Okay, so just to demonstrate, we have different styles of writing our sentences. So we are going to write short sentences, long sentences, maybe 2 or 3 lines or more. It's going to make sense to you, definitely. But here, remember, when you're writing academic, you're not writing your memoir. Okay, we are writing academic writing for someone else to read, for someone else to mark you, to give you marks. Okay, so the better this person is going to understand, to grasp what you want to tell them, the better it's going to be, the more marks you're going to have. So we are going to discuss about short sentences. Number 2, no unnecessary words. I don't use unnecessary words. All my English is tip-top, perfect. Okay, we are going to see how to make it simpler. Familiar words, this is what we are going to use, because we don't know who is going to mark. At times it is our supervisor, but we can have external moderators as well, as important. Okay, so we should be using familiar words that they understand as well. We should, so in terms of jargon, should we include jargon or stay away from jargon? We are going to see jargons and acronyms. Active, passive words, which one to use? What is active? What is passive? We are going to talk about that. Good style. Okay, let's see what is meant by good style. Punctuation. Okay, this is one of the most important aspects of academic writing, and when it comes to references of a correct punctuation, we are going to cover all of these, and as well to keep it concise. Okay, see, this is fundamental, keeping it concise in terms of academic. So it's called a pyramid, but all of these plus minus are going to be the foundation of academic writing. So let's start with something which is going to be maybe a bit funny as well. Okay, so UK against US English. Which one are we going for? We are most likely from the University of Mauritius, University of Technology, and different universities accredited in Mauritius. So most likely we will need to write in English, okay, which is aligned to the British English. Okay, so just this is a short example. So the US guys say, oh, nice pants. So for him, pants is your trousers. But for the English guy, he will be thinking that, okay, these are his underparts. Okay, so this like small nuances, it can change the meaning of the sentence. So we're not going to dwell too much on that, but at least we just need to be aware. Like for British English, it's sweet. Academic English is candy. Aluminium becomes aluminum. Biscuit becomes cookie. Okay, you may remember in Kabihushi Kabiram, okay, when Kajol was talking to Mrs. Sprightly, she said, would you like some tea with some cookie? So it's not cookie. Cookie is for US guys. So if the film was supposed to be shot in UK, so it's biscuit instead of cookie. So you can write to Karan Johar and tell him that. So boot of the car is going to become truck. Chips, okay, I have a story for this one, becomes French fries. I was in the US 2 years back, and we sat at a restaurant, me and my wife and me. So we ordered chips and I don't know what, maybe some drinks and so on. And what came? We were expecting chips. So in Mauritian language, chips is chips, what we get everywhere. So what we get was a packet of Lay's. So for them, this is chips. So I should have ordered French fries. Okay, so just remember, just try to imagine how was our head in the restaurant, so on, in front of all these people. But anyway, this is how we learn. So you have a link there if you want to learn to see much more of these terms which have different meaning, not different meaning, but same meaning, but different words to describe these. Okay. Next, in terms of spelling, again, British and American. So in terms of neighbor, for instance, you're going to remove the U for American. SE words ending with SE, and then those with ZE. Okay, you have the British and the American one. Fetus, okay, noun. Practice is the same. Practice, verb is practice in American English, but in British English that we need to abide to most likely, it's practice, CE, and verb is practice, TISE. So just be aware about these. So why do we need to be like so adamant? So it's also simple things. But ultimately, if you remain with us till the end, you're going to see how these are going to contribute. These are easy marks for you to get ultimately. Okay, you're going to see how we mark like dissertation or thesis. Okay, the difference between dissertation and thesis, this comes from British and American English as well. Don't worry about that. So many words, meter, okay, centimeter, and so on, just need to be aware about the way they're writing. So how do we avoid that? Maybe when you're starting your document, you're opening your Word document, saving it as my dissertation file or my dissertation, okay, or my nightmare, depending on what you want to call it. So you need to change the language right from the beginning. Okay, change it to British, UK, English, and so on, right from the beginning. It's going to help you to avoid these mistakes, like spelling mistake. Now, do we go for passive or do we go for active? Which one? Depending. Let's see. So active voice, when do we use active voice? So an example is given to you. I conducted a study on integrating renewable energy. So it is active. I am doing it. You know exactly who is doing the action. This is active voice. Sentences are easier to understand and usually require less word. Active voice. How do you put that in passive voice now? So it's more like passive, more subtle, more calm. A study was conducted on integrating renewable energy. So now let's see, maybe the information is practically the same, but there is a difference. In the second one, we don't know who did the study. A study was conducted. It could have been done by me, my team, or another researcher. So it is not mentioned. So you're going to lose part of the information when you're going to use passive voice. But which one are we going to use? Active or passive? When to use passive voice. So I've got this information from DCU Writing Center. You have the link there, you have the PDF file, you can download it and read much more, but I've extracted two slides from there. Let's see what I'm just going to take maybe 2 examples from there. So to avoid first person, if you want to avoid, at times, most supervisors, they are going to say, avoid the use of active, like I did that, or we did that. So put that in a passive form. Is going to be much like subtle, but much more easy for someone reading the report. However, there are some other supervisor or schools or universities will say, no, you need to focus on active. The trend nowadays is to go for active voice when you're in academic writing, but still I prefer the passive voice. But you will see there are some difference, and we can see you can have like a common denominator and try to, but don't change from active, passive, just like disco. It's not going to work out for you in the dissertation. It's going to be like you're going to lose the flow of your discussion. So one example, I will discuss Kant's philosophical theories in this essay. It's just active voice. I will. Like if you put that in passive voice, Kant's philosophical theories will be discussed. So it's okay. Maybe I will lose. Who is going to do? It's not going to be in this essay by me. We're not going to say by me. It's not going to be good way of writing it, but it depends on how you put that. Should be okay. Let's see the second one. The scientists added reagent to the sample. Reagent was added to the sample. So we just lose who did that. So if we are in the paragraph, we are saying, okay, what we did and so on, that should be fine because it is understood that, okay, you look for the test tube, you look for the different solution. It should be you. It can't be like Barack Obama who has come to add the reagent, is not it? So it had to be you. So it is inclusive. It's good. But at times you just need to be very careful about when you're moving from active to passive, you lose the action part. Who is doing that? Okay, so you have a few examples that you can read again. Now, how to maybe let's just discuss. Okay, let's criticize maybe the active voice. Studies have let's criticize the passive voice. Studies have been conducted on the importance of exercise. That's good. Studies have been. So who did the studies? Why are the names of the studies not listed here? Okay, who did that? So we lose these who. So that's why we need to be very careful about active or passive. But still, for me personally, okay, I still prefer to use passive voice, but depending on universities, always see the starting point. The number one is what university is telling you. I'm going to show you references and so on. This is not the Bible, okay? This is the general way, but there are some differences in universities, how they refer, how they are going to tell you how to format and so on, the line spacing. These are going to be guidelines for you. At least you are aware that, there are something that we call line spacing that I need to be aware. I need to look for what is my university asking me to do. However, okay, in terms of these, just check with your supervisor or someone who is in charge of the reporting, or you can have it in the document as well. I think for the University of Mauritius, they still prefer the passive voice. Okay, so this is for you, active and passive voice. Now, what is a tense? Should be writing present tense, past tense, or future tense? Let's have a look, quick look. Introduction part, use a present tense in an introduction to a chapter or section or a table where you're outlining its content. So introduction part, the introduction, it can be a chapter, the chapter of introduction, or it can be for each chapter that you have in your dissertation, you need to have an introductory part, paragraph maybe, and it ends, every chapter ends with a summary of the chapter. Okay, there's a difference between summary and conclusion. Conclusion is a last chapter, but each chapter starts with an introduction and ends with a conclusion. Now that we are at it, let's discuss it quickly. So what is introduction? For each chapter, let's say the chapter on methodology. What do you need to put in the introductory part of this chapter? So you need to present, give the reader what is expected from you. What are you going to present? What are you going to put forward in this chapter? So in this chapter of methodology, or just link. So based on the findings of the literature review, we are now in a position, or not we, but the researcher whatsoever, don't put active, is going to maybe put forward the method that are going to be developed to be able to get the primary source of information. Maybe you're going to discuss about, we are going to use questionnaire, we are going to discuss about the difference between qualitative and quantitative for those who are doing maybe behavioral analysis and so on. So discuss, and then the correct choice or methodology is going to be made. If you're doing modeling, so a software, maybe MATLAB or whatsoever, is going to be used for the modeling, and some equipment, some software, hardware, or whatsoever are going to be used. So you give an introduction. Then below, different sub-paragraphs that you have, you're going to say, okay, what is a software, what is a hardware, what are the difficulties, what is a cost, and so on. These are the different topics coming in this chapter. Then ultimately you have a summary. What do you have in the summary? So in this chapter, we discussed about then last sentence, you need to give an overview, like you see, when you watch a serial, they give you an idea, okay, a taste of what's coming in the next, maybe serial, okay, the next, how do you call that, the next video whatsoever. Okay, so they give you an APSU, as we call it. This is what you need to do in the summary as well. So you say what you have done in this chapter, then you say in chapter number 4, in the next chapter, we are going to do the data analysis and so on. Just give a brief APSU what's coming after. So introduction should be in present most of the time. Okay, why we have trouble with these tasks is a review, not was a review, is a review of the state of housing. So table free, let's say you are referring to tables or figures in your document. So it should be table free shows, not showed, okay, or will show, okay. This should be in what we call present tense, simple present tense. Now the chapter on literature review, hypothesis, methodology, results and observation. What is the tense we should be using? Should be past tense, most likely. Okay, again, it is not like hard and fast rule, but it's going to cover 99%. It may happen that you need to include a present tense. We are going to see at times. There are things which are true. It's still true. We can't say, my name was Ismail. Okay, it is still, I believe. Okay, it is maybe tomorrow morning. I don't think it's going to change, but till now, it still is. So you are going to use present tense. Then, but basically when you're reporting, so maybe Irfan said so, he demonstrated that in his maybe study. So he demonstrated his past tense has already been done. Okay, and Smith and Jones reported the results of the investigation. This should be in what we call past tense. Again, a few discussion and can be written in the present perfect tense. We're going to come to present perfect shortly after. Or the literature review as well, present perfect. We have a slide on present perfect tense. Future tense, maybe for the recommendation. Okay, the findings of this report will shed light. Okay, the findings show that this needs to be implemented. We are talking about our findings, and this needs to be implemented in the future. Okay, this is a future tense. Use only maybe for the last part of your dissertation. Now, a few examples of simple present tense. General truth. Okay, scholars share a common argument that engineering is the most male-dominated of all professions. It's not me who is telling that, should be having a reference from there, but it is supposedly true. So they share a common argument. Engineering is, so it is like in the simple present tense. And habitual action, like the ISO standard, are regularly reviewed. It's not were regular, so it is still being done nowadays. Okay, and different examples, and you can see from there. Table 1 demonstrate. We discussed about that and so on. So it's about the simple present tense, simple past tense. Now, an action started and finished in the past. What does that mean? An action which has started and already finished in the past. When we use simple past tense, statistical analysis were used to demonstrate relationship. Dulé and Bird conducted their studies in the early 70s. Or it can be method and results of an investigation. Samples were centrifuged, then strained. 2 subjects had a 1 to 2 log increase and so on. So it has already been done. We are reporting on works which have already been done. Now, tip for you, abstract, all written largely in the past tense. Okay, so abstract, we are going to see where is the abstract in your document, but then we are going to see when do we write it. It's not chronological. We are going to see. So when you have completed your work, then you write your abstract. Same for the maybe chapter on literature review. No, not but introduction as well. You can start doing your work, then it's not like you need to complete introduction, then you move. No, we're going to come to that. So abstract, let's keep it simple, past tense, except when you have, maybe you need to talk about the future work, what needs to be done to accomplish a specific thing, then this can be in future tense. Okay, future now. Okay, the weather report says it will rain tomorrow. I think tomorrow is going to be like a thunderstorm as well for Mauritius. So be careful. So the weather report says it will rain. It will. This is what say. This paper will focus on. If you're introducing your paper, this paper will focus on. Keep going to. It is a language which most of the time we see in some papers or in some dissertation. It's not considered informal and rarely used in academic writing. Use such expressions such as is likely to, okay, or is certain to instead of is going to. We use that mostly in the verbal language, so it's informal. So going to is not as such going to work for your dissertation. Use better words like is likely to, is certain to. Okay, now present perfect. What does that mean? I have a small diagram for you to just show you that. So if we are talking about a past event, okay, which has occurred, which has started in the past, and the event ended, like not ended, should not be ended. Okay, should be the event is still on. Okay, not ended, should not have been ended here. Okay, let me just, should not be ended here. So event has started, but it's still today, it is still valid. So let's an example. She has lived in Melbourne for 2 years. It's not like she had lived or she lived, because she is still living there. So then it needs to show like present perfect. This is how we can use that. Another example. So when information established in the past is still relevant and current, just like I say, maybe a great deal of research. Do have an example in there? A great deal of research has been conducted on the basic techniques of a nuclear transfer, but few experiments have been carried out, still being carried out, okay, to discover the most appropriate age of cytoplasm. Okay, forget about the technical words, see what we are meaning in terms of the English language. So this is a present perfect, remember. Now the past one, so the event occurred, not occurred, but started in the past, but ended in the past, as compared to present perfect, where it is still on, she's still living in Melbourne, but now in past perfect, she has stopped living there. So the war had already ended when the troops arrived, already ended, okay, already completed as from today. So a few maybe examples given to you for just to be aware about the sentences, the tense that we need to use. Next important thing that we need to study in terms of academic writing is punctuation. So let's quickly run through that. Commas, okay. How do we use commas? A few examples, I've given you these in terms of examples to you. Tomatoes, comma. Beans, comma, cabbages, and potatoes were all genetically modified in turn. So to maybe you have different maybe items, you just need to separate them. Simple one, isn't it? But it doesn't happen when we don't see it in your report. It's so simple that at times you miss it. The four main groups were children, employees, pensioners, and the disabled. So it's pensioners and the disabled, comma, and the employees. So we have four main categories: is children, employees, pensioners and the disabled, and the unemployed. So you see how we are using the comma to separate a list in a group. Okay, or after transitional words. So transitional words are very important when we talk about academic writing. We have a slide coming just after that, not just after, maybe later, about transitional words. So important to link your idea. At times, if you are in the same flow, so it can be moreover, but if you are in the different flow, you are disagreeing, it can be however, nevertheless, and so on. So you will need to collect all these words, powerful words, which are going to make your English beautiful. Okay, it's going to make it more powerful. Okay, so basically after transitional words, let's say however, we can't just, it's not however it is sunny today. No, however, comma, so we need to have a pause. Okay, that is it. So to put a word or phrase in parentheses. So what are parentheses? It's just like what we use, basically the brackets also. So a comma can be placed before the word or phrase and one just off. So what does that mean? Let's say, and as discussed previously, so this part, when we say as discussed previously, we can imagine it as being in parentheses. Okay, so and we can read it as and the free plaintiff will approach later. So this is a way we are going to read. However, when we put the comma here, we just need to pause, and as discussed previously, we need to put it in pairs. It should be happening in pairs, these types of commas. As discussed previously, the free plaintiff will approach and so on. So this is how we use commas basically. Next is semicolon. Okay, the main use is to separate part of a sentence that were too closely related to be broken into separate sentences. It's too close to be broken. If we separate them into sentences, it's not going to feel good. Okay, however, if you put a full stop, it's going to be, no, a comma is going to be too weak. So full stop is going to be too long. It's going to separate them. Comma is going to be too weak. So we just need to find a what we call a medium inside, in between these. That's why I put the full stop and we put the comma. But one on top of the other, it comes as semicolon. So, example, 7 people applied for the post. 6 were shortlisted and then interviewed. So you see where we put the semicolon. Okay, nobody questions the results. They were quite conclusive. Okay, a few examples to you, many city and so on. We won't go through all the examples. So colon now, the 3 main users are, number 1, a list. Okay, 3 aspects were identified. Number 1, financial. Number 2, social. 3rd, ethical. So it's a list. You identify 3 factors, colon, then you list the factors. Explanation. These systems make checks such as, not semicolon, but colon, whether it contains a verb, whether it is overly complex, whether the subject agrees with the verb, or whether it's stock. So you can replace what we call comma. Okay, if you have longer, maybe sentences, comma can be used for when you have a list, a short list, tomatoes, potatoes, and so on. This can be, but you have several verbs and so on. It's better to use colon. As Einstein said, okay, tutu, colon, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. So you're quoting what someone else said, then you can use a colon. Exclamation, simple one, avoid them. They are annoying. Avoid them. Unless I think in mathematics you have maybe NCO factorization, factorial. You can use this. Is then you should be using exclamation when you have these, but not in the academic writing sense. Capitalization. When do you use capitalization? At times we see that in the middle of a sentence, if you want to emphasize a word, no, it can't be used. You have rules for capitalization. So some researchers, I won't be reading that, okay? And let me go through the examples briefly. So the first word in a sentence, okay, in the beginning, days and month. So the days, Friday, Monday, and so on, should be in capital, the first letter. In the month as well, July, August, and so on, the first alphabet of the month should be in capital. Nationality, Mauritius or Mauritian should be in capital. Languages, most Swiss is for the nationality, speak French and German. So these should be in capitals, as we've seen. The names of people or places, Dr. Martin Lee from Sydney, Australia. You see, I've highlighted that for you. Book titles, Power and the State. We just need to put the capital letters for the main words only, like word like and, the, of, and so on should not be capitalized. So this is important for you when you're going to do your cover page. Okay, so you need to use the same principle here to see in your title which word should be put in capitals. Historical periods like the Bronze Age, Great Depression, and so on. Names of organization, University of Mauritius. It may be a silly what we are going, not silly, but maybe, oh, maybe you're expecting higher stuff. I don't know what, but these are the common mistakes that you leave. Okay. When I say you, I'm just generalizing, not you specifically, don't take it personally. So it's the general population of students. And this at times is what contributes. It's as if you're eating a biryani and you get the lychee. You know, I think we talk about that in the presentation. So we get an lychee. And on the cover page, if you have University of Mauritius and you put that in small alphabet and so on, lychee. Okay. So the first person pronoun, this is I. Okay. By Monday, I. We don't I, small I, it's I. And for seasons, just be careful. Seasons are not capitalized. Winter, summer, autumn, and so on, they are not capitalized. acronyms now. How do we, there are some acronyms like we are used to like AIDS. We better use AIDS, okay, the acronym than the acquired immune deficiency syndrome. Most people understand and they know it. However, it is an acronym and we have a list which is going to be discussed later, the list of acronym, and we need, whenever we are using that for the first time in our report, okay, or dissertation, so on, we need to describe in full, okay. So in some cases, users have forgotten that these are acronyms like radar. So it's called radio detection and ranging. We forget we use it like in common way, but it is not the proper way. So first time you're using that in your report, you should define it. You put the full form, then after that in bracket, you put the short form, which is the acronym. Then afterward in the document, you are going to use a short form. Okay, and still remember we need to link that to the list of acronym or list of what we call abbreviation. In our preliminary pages, we are going to have a list, okay, of all the acronyms that we have used. We are going to come to that, but this, we just need to link these two. Bracket, curve bracket, what we call parenthesis, and square bracket have quite separate use. Don't use them. Don't like at times just say, let me show them. Let me show the marker that I can use the circular one, okay, the curly bracket or the square one, or even the braces. What? No, we need to be what we call, important word for today, consistency. Okay, so at times in mathematical expression, it's good that we can use it, but be consistent. In terms of quotation, this one is wonderful. Quotation, okay. When do we use that? You can read this one, but let's see the example. He asked me, okay, basically, I don't know which one you're most used to. So we have again the fight between the British and the American. So he asked, comma, single quotation, did you call me sir just then? Question mark, then you close a single quotation. This is British. This is what we should be adopting. Or if you're speaking about maybe American, you want to write to an American journal or whatsoever, so then you need to put double quotation at the beginning, at the end, in the middle. If you're referring to anything, it should be single quotation. So you just see how this is going to nuance, okay, your English ultimately. So at least you should be aware about that. Okay, let's talk a bit. Let me just my time. We are on time. So new numbers now. Okay, so there's no final S on 100,000 millions when used with whole numbers. What does that mean? 6 million people live there. It's not 6 millions. It's 6 million people live there. Thousands, however, we don't. We have a whole number. Okay, remember we have a whole number here. Here is general. Thousands of people were forced to move from the flooded valley. So it's not 1,000, 2,000, it's thousands. So it's like, we don't know exactly, we don't have what to call the whole number. So then we are going to add the S. Important for you. Okay. Next one, it is normal to write whole numbers as word from 0 to 10 and as digit above 10. What does that mean? Let's say examples. There were 16 students. Remember, 16 students. It is in words. Okay, in clause, but only, no, not in words, sorry, in digit. Okay, so there were 16 students. So 16 is more than 10. We should write that in digits, but only 8 came to the lecture. Not 8, not like this, but 8 in words. So when it is less than 10, we should be writing that in words. When it is greater than 10, we should be writing that in figures. Interesting, isn't it? I don't know about that. Maybe this year I came to know about that. Okay, words now, keywords. Important again, when you have keywords, maybe you would try to, most likely, I had this maybe impression from me as well, my style. I would try to use different approaches, angles to just show the readers, oh, I can write different types, different style of English, isn't it? However, maybe I'm going to change. Maybe at times I'm going to use however, next time it's going to be nevertheless, and so on. So it's good, that's good. However, there are terms that we call key terms. And these key terms, you need to stick to it. Don't try to look for synonym because you're going to dilute these words. You need to stick to it. So maybe it's renewable energy, renewable energy, renewable energy. It can't be like one time it's renewable energy, next time it's, let's call that a green energy. And another time in next paragraph, because that's sustainable energy. No. It doesn't work that way. You're going to dilute your keywords. So for keywords, you need to know what are your keywords, stick to it. Don't use synonym, then all the readers are going to be confused ultimately. Okay, conjunction and transitional words, we touched on that earlier on. So conjunction can be like but, although, unless, if, as, since, while, when, before, after, all these are conjunction. So what do you need to do now? Okay, while you're reading, you're doing your literature review. It's not only to collect ideas. You need to look after these words, collect these words as well. They're going to improve your academic writing. Transitional words, so these are conjunction. Transitional words can be moreover, indeed, furthermore, now, nevertheless, and so on. Okay, right now I've given you maybe 10 for conjunction and so on. So that's, you need to collect all that. And it can be transitional phrases as well. So in spite, in fact, as a result, is going to help you in linking ideas and so on. These are powerful words to make it much more interesting for your reading. So what have I done for my student? I have a list of what I call the useful words for academic writing. So what I've collected throughout my years, okay, of doing research and so on reading papers, I have collected 100 such words. Can be like, just give you an example. This is page 1 only. I have 3 pages of that. So conversely, however, alternatively, on the contrary, on the other hand, whereas, can be likewise, correspondingly, equally, not only, but also, in the same way, in the same breath, similarly. So while you're using all these in your literature review, for instance, is going to make the topic like, you're going to tell a story of the word. It's not going to be repeated. Moreover, furthermore, moreover, this is going to be boring. So you can use, this is only 1 page. So up to you, try to collect all these different interesting terms to make your academic writing much more interesting. Now let's come to jargon. How do we consider jargon? Should we use it? Should we use them or not? So what are jargon, or technical terms that may most likely only specific group of people are going to understand? Okay, maybe for us at the Central Electricity Board, we will call that termination. So what is termination for you? Maybe it doesn't mean anything, but it is a technical term, but I can't really find a substitute for that. Okay, maybe it's good. I can explain it. So how do you use that? How much do you need to use in your research, in your paper? So basically, if you have jargon that you can't make up, like you can't let it like find a substitute word, maybe. Okay, so you need to define it. Explain to the reader what does that mean, maybe for a figure, for illustration, and so on. So this is clear in his mind now. But don't overuse jargon. It's going to make the document very complicated, heavy. Okay, it is heavy by itself, a dissertation. It's heavy, but don't make it like overweight, okay, with too much of jargon. Try to, as far as possible, to remove jargon, but there are some that you can't like remove it completely. You will need to, but then illustrate it, make the reader understand what that means, then you can use it throughout. This is going to be helpful. And for the reader as well, they're going to be happy because they have learned a new thing. Okay, now the structure of the writing. We said at the beginning, we have the pyramid and maybe simpler terms, simpler sentences, short sentences. Let's say a few examples that are going most likely to shed light on what we have been telling you. So avoid complex, we have labeled that as avoid complex writing. So an example in orange that you have, in order to ascertain the efficaciousness of the program, all the program participants who took part in the study were interrogated at some point upon program completion. Yes, I understood it. Most likely you understood this sentence as well. Grammatically correct. However, it's complex. What is efficaciousness? Oh my God, I need to, does that exist? Okay, so can we write that in simpler terms? Yes. To determine the success of the program, we question the participant afterward. Same idea, same information being transmitted, but just see how simple this one is. So the idea is to write clearly, simply, and be direct, to the point. No need to beat about the bush. Okay, be to the point. So this is number one. Another example, export figures won't improve until the economy is stronger. So when we have this negative term, won't, will not improve. So export figures will not improve until the economy is stronger. So avoid won't. These are what we speak. Won't, don't, didn't, and so on. This is what we call the verbal language. So put it in will not improve, did not improve, and so on. Next, the government didn't allocate much funding for the program. So we say we can make it simpler. The government allocated little funding for the program. Why did not allocate much funds? So not and much. So we can link that together. So it's little funding for the program. It's direct to the point. It's easy for someone. Not you need to think about the positive, then you put the negative to understand. So it's like double. So you're using you're not using but wasting the energy of the reader. Make his life simpler. He's going to give you much more marks. So again, these sentences maybe appear okay, this is good, this is good as well, but let's see which is the correct one. It is unclear what will be the price of oil next year. So it is unclear, but it is clear for you what is the meaning of this sentence, but it is incorrect. It is unclear what will the price of oil be next year. It may be clear for you. Okay, the sentence is clear. Maybe you can understand the meaning, but it's not the correct form of writing. So what is the correct one? It is unclear what the price of oil will be next year. This is a correct, simpler, clearer, direct. Good. Do not start a sentence with conjunction. So we said, yeah, we should be knowing about conjunction, but, for, and so on. Very good. But know where to use it. Never start a sentence with but, for, and so on. Be careful. Abbreviation, never start a sentence with maybe DNA data collated in the study. Instead use, we collated DNA data. So this is active form. You can look for the passive form as well. So we collected DNA data is a better form to use. And never start a sentence with numbers. 7 data points were used. No, we can use instead a total of 7 data points. So these are maybe things that maybe you have not been taught. Okay, so I'm just like highlighting these to you. To avoid emotional words, good, correct, improve. So what is improve? Can be maybe you got 30 and you now got 35. So it's improvement. That's very good improvement. We need to have a party. No, no, no. It can be maybe for someone else improvement from 30 to 99. So this is improvement. So what is improvement? We don't know. It's like subjective. What is good? What is correct? It is subjective. So avoid this word. Superlative, gigantic, magnificent. So what is magnificent? Is subjective. Marvelous. So you can use that for your love letters and so on. So you look marvelous today, lady, whatsoever. So fantastic, but not for academic writing. Redundant words. So these are quite an interesting one. Let's have a look. Small in size, but what is small? It can't be like, if it is not small in size, what is small in? So it should be small in size. So in size is extra word, what we call redundant word. Square in shape. So if not square in shape, what is square in? Yellow in color. So you see what I mean by redundant word now. So try to avoid that. Next, importance of proofreading. Not important, but importance. Why? Because we don't know. We are writing, we have speed writing. We are very good, but however, we do leave a few what we call spelling mistake and so on. So you need to proofread your document well. So revise your work to improve its clarity and logical development. In both situations, proofreading is essential to avoid the small errors which may make part of your work inaccurate or difficult to understand. Okay, so do it. And at times, I think I have another slide on this one. How do you proceed? Rewriting. Okay, so after you have completed, the first draft should not be submitted. You see, like what you have, what comes to your mind, you're just writing, then you need to sit later again. This is where the energy, you're going to put much more energy. So you should leave it for a day or two, forget about it. Okay, go and watch Netflix and so on. Then you come, you're energized, you come and read it again, asking yourself the question, does this answer the questions in the title? Do the different sections of the paper have the right weight? We're going to discuss on that. Does the argument or discussion develop clearly and logically? And different questions that we have as well. Okay, you need to question back This question we are going to discuss on that. So these are what makes you sit down, ultimately first draft, you write everything. Then you come, you start to scrutinize. You say, okay, this should not be here. This is where most of the energy and quite some time is usually spent. But why do students just submit maybe the first draft or a small elaborated version of the first draft? Because they have not planned properly. It is already deadline. Okay. And then things to avoid when discussing during the discussion part, it's not like, in my opinion, okay, the result shows this. What is your opinion? You can't give your opinion. You can give your opinion, but you should not mention that I'm giving my opinion based on the observations from your graph. That's okay. Actually, I think not. You can't think. It's not here. You can think, but you should not be writing that in your report. Okay, you should be basing yourself on your findings. Use impersonal phrases instead, like it is generally accepted, it is widely agreed, most people, okay, it is probable. I'm just giving you a few examples of how you should be writing that. So evidence suggests that these phrases, when you have a minority viewpoint, so the first 5 sentences, okay, were from the word majority were being concerned. Okay, now when it is minority, it can be argued that one view is that, so you compare, you argue. Okay, word of caution, what we call homophone. Homo means same, phone means sound. So 222, what is 222? Okay, even Word, Microsoft Word won't be able to see 222. You will need, that's what we call, you need to proofread. Okay, read and read and read again to find these who, and this is what we call the elaichi. Let's call them the elaichi or the biryani. Okay, affect and effect. What is the difference? You know the difference, but at times when you're writing, and even the issue that even you rely to is an over reliance on Microsoft Word to detect all your maybe homophones, your mistakes, spelling mistakes. It's good, it helps, but you need to have to carry out due diligence and check all these things later on. Already and already, okay, fair and fair, led and lead, okay, or led as well, can be led, and made or made, principle or principle. This one is very common, principle and principle. Okay, the principle maybe, and so on. The principle defined, the Archimedes principle, PLE, but the principal idea, okay, this is different. These are quite used interchangeably. So sentences length determines the ease of readability of a manuscript. Too long sentences will disrupt the thought and flow. Okay, now it should not be too long, but should not be too small. If it is like small sentences, 2 or 3 words, is going to resemble a collection of bullet points, which doesn't look okay. So you need to vary, okay, the length of the sentences in a paragraph to keep the reader interested and involved. So basically avoid extra long sentences, like 2 or 3 lines, 2 lines, okay, maybe 4 or 5 lines, it's too much, okay, because the content is heavy. You're sharing an idea with someone else, and you are used to that. You have been living with that for the past 1 year or 4 years, depending on what you are doing, okay, for maybe a PhD, MSc, or a honors project. So you already know exactly what is being said. So it may appear very easy for you, but someone else reading and your different language that you are going to use, try to keep it as simple as possible. Short sentences and well organized, well structured. Okay, so this was the first part. Okay, 1 hour already. The first part was about the academic writing. Now let's dive into dissertation, the crux of the matter. 5-second break. So the dissertation, malade la tête. Okay, there you go, guys. So the cover, we are going to start with the cover. We are going to tackle abstract one by one till we reach the conclusion. So Hogarth University, this is your cover page. What do you need to insert in that? Name of the institution. Again, I'm just going to stop here. This is one way, not the best way. This is the agreed way, okay, from what I've seen, the research I've been doing, but still discuss or get what your university. This one should be the same for the University of Mauritius and UTM, I think, should be basically the same. But if you're coming from a different institution, just check. You should be having a template, so stick to that. Okay, but this is a general what should be in there. So the name of the institution, the school or department, the title of the dissertation. Remember, the main words should start with a capital letter. The title of the dissertation. Hint, preferably not more than 15 words. So try to keep it as short as possible. Okay. and then your name, Harry Potter, full name, okay? And if your name is usually recto verso, I don't know, try to keep it as short as possible. No, it should be full name basically. Okay, the statement. So this thesis is submitted in fulfillment of the requirement of the degree of witchcraft at Harvard University. Then you have the month and year of submission. So basically these are the important, maybe general as well. Okay, maybe common denominator across different universities, what you need to have on the cover page. Now, discussion point. Do we need to, what is a discussion point? Add the university logo. If you're submitting the university motion, do you need to add the university logo? Yes or no? Basically, no. For university motion, I know it's no. But for other university, I think for UCLan, okay, you need, it is on the cover page, you need to add the logo of the university. So if you're unsure, ask. Because when you're adding the logo, it's like an official document of the university. That's why you need to be very careful when you're submitting a report. So it can be dissertation or even lab reports. I see most of the time students submitting lab report and they include the logo of the university. So be very careful about that. Okay. So ask if you're unsure, ask always all the supervisor. So at times I see title where it is interrogative form. So should maybe vaccination be abolished? Question mark. So is it like a newspaper article? So you can't use interrogative style in your dissertation. Okay, so it can be a study of maybe vaccination, and so on. So it's study and investigation. So give important word is going to give the reader, okay, or potential reader, the direction. Is this study a comparative study? Is it in Mauritius only? It is worldwide, Indian Ocean. Give these keyword for your title. And then fulfillment, is it with one L or two L? We have also, you have seen it, maybe you have not paid attention to that. Again, it is between English and British and US English. So for, let's talk British English, okay, it's going to be fulfillment, one L only. One L, so you have two L here, L and L, but it is, this one has three L's. Okay, so it's going to be this one, the first one, as we have seen in the report, that needs to be submitted. If you're submitting to a university based in the US, most likely you will need to give the double L, F-U-L-L-M-E-N-T. Okay, so these are a few catch points. And then, oh my God, you won't believe this one. Okay, some students, they are graduate, they are next to graduation when they're submitting their thesis, they don't know which degree they are doing. Is it like electrical and electronic? Is it electronics? Is it N-A-N-D or and? So is it MSc? Okay, in masters in business administration, is it masters or master of business, or is it masters in business administration or master of business administration? You don't know. You are on the what we call la ligne droite finale of the submission. So be very careful. This is your cover page. This is your first impression. Okay, you are going to see a girl for marriage. This is you're presenting yourself. This is who you're going to present yourself as, with so many mistakes. Okay, so be super careful for the cover page. This is going to be part of your first impression that you are going to leave. So preliminary pages, you can have the title page, table of contents, list of tables, list of figures, acknowledgement, dedication, declaration, certification of own work. It can have abstract, list of abbreviation or acronym. It can be list of publication if you have published a few work, and at times Turnitin report. Okay, the receipt from Turnitin. So what does that mean? This is a list, and different, this one comes from most likely the University of Mauritius. Okay, but different universities, UTM is different. You need after title page, I think you need to add declaration, Turnitin, and then the abstract. Abstract come nearly on top. But what we have for the University of Mauritius, it is in this format. So there's no hard and fast rule, but basically for us today, what we need to know is that these are the important points, the important pages, which we call the preliminary pages that we need to add. So let's go into this one. So in terms of word limit, a few hints for you. Honors level should be approximately 8,000 to 10,000 words. Master's level, normal master's is 10 to 25,000 words. Master's by research is slightly more, 30 to 40K. in terms of word. For PhD thesis, around 80,000 to 100,000 words, just for you to know. So what does this word count comprise of? So comprise of the main body of the dissertation, including footnote. If you're having footnote in your document, it's going to count. In-text citation, we are going to come to that. Tables and figures. Okay, if you have tables written and so on, you'll write different columns and so on. These are going to count in the number of words. While what is excluded now, the preliminary pages, abstract is excluded, list of tables is excluded, list of references at the end is excluded, appendix is excluded. So, and maybe a technique for you to do if you're going below, above the recommended word limit. At times in some universities, they're going to drop down your marks. Okay, you're going to be penalized. So if you can, maybe you have tables, you can just save it as a picture. Okay, you screenshot it, whatsoever, just cut it, you put it there. So it's going to be a picture. Maybe you're going to save 25, 30 words there. So if you have maybe 10 also, it's going to save you 300 words. So this is how we can try to do that. So next is formatting counts. Important. You're going to see why. So what comes to formatting, what is a font that you should be using? Times New Roman. This is the common denominator. It is acceptable worldwide. So why go for different font, just showing that you have so many fonts in your database? Arial, not bad, but all universities are going to accept Times New Roman. So stick to that. Okay. Heading. Okay. And the size should be 12. Okay. For the font, the body text. For the heading, it can be 14, 16 plus, depending, maybe the main heading and so on. This is okay. Line spacing, most of the time it is 1.5 line spacing, or it can be double as well. In some university, I think UTM, if I'm not mistaken, asks for double line spacing, but cross-check again before starting. Margin, so you need to keep a gutter, left margin, while for the binding. So this one is slightly larger. Usually it is around 1.5 inch, but for the top, bottom, and right margin, it is around 1 inch, around 25 millimeters. Alignment. So what is alignment? How you justify your paragraph and so on. So the heading should be left, aligned to the left, but the main body, the main paragraph of your work should be justified. It's not so difficult. Just need to select the paragraph. You click on justified. But not most, but maybe 20% of students don't do that. Okay. Pagination. So preliminary pages, you're going to have what we call Roman numerals, I, double I, 3, and so on. And as from the title page, okay, the title page is not numbered. The main page, that cover page that we told, is not numbered. It's going to come, the I, double I, triple I, and so on is going to come after the title page. Then as soon as we start the introduction, it's going to be page 1, then it goes on till the end. Appendix should be numbered, okay? And usually we go for one-sided print. Okay, it's not about wasting pages and so on. It is a correct formatting, one-sided print. If there's more than one volume, maybe you were like inspired, you're going to write different volumes. Okay, so each volume should have its own pagination. Okay, now we talk about the title page, the table of content, abstract. So these are the ones which are essential for you. It's going to create a first impression, how you look like. It's going to give a first. So basically, okay, let's talk about dressing. If you're dressed a specific way, we say that people should not judge you according to you, how you look, how you dress, but subconsciously they judge you. Maybe they don't want, but subconsciously they are going to judge you. Similarly, for your report, the title page. Remember, I talk about the degree, your name, the institution, logo or not logo, all these, the table of content, the way it is formatted, the abstract. All these give the first impression about the student. Okay, I'm speaking in terms of my own experience as marker. Okay, so heed that. Table of contents now, you have that, you need to give the preliminary content, okay, what we call the abstract, the different thing that comes for the pages we have just seen. All chapter headings and subheading, maybe chapter number 1, introduction, subheading could be background, aim of the study, objectives, and so on, but don't go like into subheadings. It's going to be too much. So keep it, most likely heading and subheading should be okay. Okay, and then they need to have a corresponding page number. Okay, so respective starting page. I've seen that. Okay, common mistake. Let's say you say introduction, is page 1. Okay, this one is page 1. It's not 1 to 10, page 10. No, you write only the starting page. Maybe then background is going to be page 2. You write it page 2 and so on. No need to write what is the ending page, only the starting page. This is what I mean by this one. References appendix, okay, should be included in the table of content. And I've put S in the table of contents. It's not table of content. You're not happy there. It's not table of happiness. It's table of contents. So you have different contents. It's with an S. Be very careful about that. So in terms of I told you I'm not the perfect one, okay, but I do manual table content, okay, table contents, okay. There are some students, maybe they are used to automatically generating that, fine for you, but I am from the old school and I know maybe why, okay. When I correct, I know exactly why I'm saying I do it manually. So it's a lot of things that we are going to do. For formatting and so on. So I use split screen in Microsoft Word. Then it's easy for you, just copy, you put there and you put the page number and so on. Okay, I use this method, the manual one, but you can choose, you are free to use the automatic one, but then you're going to see what we call the Galimacha and so on. Title page should not be included in the table. We start with maybe what we call maybe abstract, okay, or maybe declaration, Turnitin and so on, but we don't add a number 1 is title page and so on. It's not included in the table of content. Now, in terms of list of tables, we have different tables. We have an S in tables. So the list is in chronological order as they appear in the thesis. Okay, you're going to have the table number, its heading, and the page where the table is situated. So in the list of tables, you can have maybe table 2.1, semicolon, okay, list of all magical instruments and relative spells. So this is a page number, page 21. List of figures, similar, a list in chronological order as they appear in the thesis. The figure number is caption, okay, what is a labeling or whatsoever, and the page where the figure is situated. Details from the cross sections or a magic one, so it is on page 18. This is for list of tables. So list of tables come first, followed by list of figures. Then you have the list of abbreviation or acronym. We mentioned that. This one, these two that we have just seen comes in chronological order as they appear in the document, while for abbreviation is going to come in alphabetical order. So what is alphabetical? ABC, aerial bundle cables, EDB, economic development. So it comes in alphabetical order and not as they appear in the document in chronological order. Important, these two. Acknowledgements now, okay. So a thesis research is really the accomplishment of one person alone. Okay, you have help from different persons. So you need to be humble. Acknowledgement, humbly recognize, help receive. Okay, that's good. Need to be humble, but then be intelligent. Okay, first and foremost, thank the Almighty, most likely. Then your supervisor. He is going to be the first marker of your project. So thank him for his invaluable support, guidance. I'm just giving you a few terms that you can use. Then show appreciation for your parents, your wife, or maybe your ex-girlfriend. Maybe she inspired you, I don't know, ex-girlfriend. Okay. The support of software for research. Maybe at times when you're using software, you get it for free for research purpose. So acknowledge these software companies in your acknowledgement. Purpose, fully acknowledge and recognize financial support. At times you get support, grants, funding, and so on from tech. I think it's hack now. Okay, so recognize all they have helped you ultimately. The declaration, most universities request you to make declaration that is your own work. Okay, and you have a template for that. So stick to this template, and it has not been submitted to another degree. So I had a student who did an MBA. Okay, he did his MBA thesis, then he did, I think, an MSc. Okay, and since the topic was practically the same, so he copied his MBA dissertation and submitted that as an MSc project. So it is his own work, but he has already submitted that for another degree. Okay, so it doesn't count. It's going to count as self-plagiarism as well. So you have not published work. So if you have published any work, you need to put that as well in the declaration. Abstract now, important one. It may be called an executive summary as well. So mandatory requirement. It's important, it's fundamental to have an abstract to a thesis that should encapsulate the essence of the work by describing three main components. What are these three components? Why you did the work, What is what we call the problem statement. Why did you do this research afterward? And what were you trying to achieve? Maybe hypothesis, your objectives, your aim. So this is going to represent 25% of your abstract. Next comes what method you use and what results were obtained. Maybe it was simulation, it was questionnaire, case study, interviews. So what method did you use and what results were obtained? This is going to be 50% of your abstract. Next is what you concluded from the contribution to the contribution to the area of study. So what did you find out? The results is general. Then you say, okay, how is this answering the problem statement? And then maybe most likely future research in this area. Then you can say, okay, what was the limit? You can put the limitation as well. So this is going to be 25%. Most of the time, what we see is that students, they try in the abstract, they try to put too much on problem statement. What is a problem about? No. The abstract, as we wrote here, is an executive summary. It should have all these three components. Okay. Now let's see what are the words. It should be around 300 to 500 word maximum. Okay, it's not the report as it's an abstract, it's the essence of your work. Usually it's 1 page, but for PhD, it can be up to 1.5 page and include all the salient features of your research. So when should it be written? At the end, when you have completed chapter 5, 6, whatsoever, conclusion, then you do the abstract. Tables, images, illustration, references are not included in the abstract. Important to note. Abstract written in the past tense, we talked about that earlier on, okay? And the abstract is really written at the end of the dissertation, no new information should be introduced. Now the thesis, check my time, the thesis now. 5 main, in whatever field you are, basically you have 5 main steps, okay? Maybe pillars of the thesis. Maybe at times you may split that into 6, but fundamentally there are 5 main. First one is introduction, problem statement, aim and scope, the thesis overview. Next is a literature review, followed by methodology, then the synthesis, results, analysis before concluding and writing your recommendation. Basically, in all fields that you are going to find, these are the main things that you are going to see. Okay, the structure. Next, important remark, document and version management, back up your work. I repeat, back up your work. How to back up now? You have CDs, DVDs, I don't know if you still use that, external hard drive, SSD, whatsoever you have nowadays, USB, email, put that even on the cloud. I don't know where this is, but put it in the cloud. I heard that it is a safe place. Put it there. Logical names of thesis version. Maybe at times I have seen that, maybe for report, not for thesis. Students submit on maybe Turnitin, they submit their report, but it's not the final version. They've just been working maybe towards the deadline, and they submit. I've been able to submit before the deadline. Very good. But they submitted not the final version. So name your version correctly. This is based on experience that I'm telling you. And then as soon as you submitted, just sorry if you're not submitted the correct version. Okay. Use logically maybe version 1.2, 1.3, and put that in a proper sequence that you can follow up ultimately. So when deadline comes to close, most of the time we fail, okay, to respond to these maybe important thing because we are nearing the deadline. So this is what happened when the deadline is to close. We have started well, introduction, literature review, but when we read your report, we know exactly what we are saying right now based on experience. When we get to chapter number 4, chapter number 5, conclusion, at least at times 1 page, at least I have written a conclusion page at 1 page. It doesn't fit. You're going to see you have marks for that. Okay, that's why you should have a plan, but because you can use a Gantt chart for that. Okay, you list all the activities and then you say when I'm going to complete that, so that it gives you time and you know, okay, I'm behind schedule. At times when you say I have 6 months to do that, that's okay, should be okay. I can do that in 1 month. I've been doing that since the beginning of the course. No, this one is different. If you want to get high marks, it takes time. Referencing takes time. And let's have a look. So failing to plan is planning to fail. So if you don't plan, you're planning to fail. So plan correctly right from the beginning. Financial resource. Do you have funds? At time you need to do survey work. You need to buy component. Do you have financial resources? You need to include that in the Gantt chart as well. Things which can constrain, I call that constraint, which can hinder the progress of the project. shipping of components. So I graduated. I was supposed to be doing a hardware project when I was at university, my first degree. So I managed to graduate, and after that, the components reached Mauritius. I finished graduation, then I learned that the component reached Mauritius. Nowadays, we have different ways by which you can order online, but be careful about these, okay? And with COVID-19, we don't know how things are going to be, but be careful. Try to remain on the safe side. Check whether you have it on the local market. What will be the lead time between ordering and receiving your component? So then I had to shift with 1 month remaining. I had to shift to software simulation, but I had already designed it like in hardware as well. But it reached after my graduation, but I got an A. Don't worry about that. So license for software, at times I have got a group of students doing MSc last year, and they wanted to do research on Lightning. So they knew exactly what was the software to be used. They researched, very good software. The license is free. The license is free. You can download it, you can use it, you can build your network. But to simulate it, you need to have the license number and things like that. So for that, you need to send a letter by ordinary, but not ordinary, but the usual mail, slow mail, postal mail. It's not email. They don't accept email. They need to send a letter, an application to them in Germany. Then they're going to send it to you by mail. It was in COVID-19 situation. Post was closed and so on. So could not do that. So license for software is important. Try to see whether you can get a free license, but even free, check all the different conditions that are attached to this license. Binding, I think nowadays you don't do the hardbound with the black cover and so on. In our times, we're using that. Nowadays, I think it's only spiral cover, if I'm not mistaken. But when everyone is okay, we have 2 days to submit. You just need to do the binding. But when you go to the binding where someone is going to bind it, you see what is the queue over there. Okay, and I think they had to submit a receipt that they have already left it there for binding and so on. So consider all that in your Gantt chart. Use project management principles to plan your work perfectly. Okay, quickly now through the different chapters, what you need, the salient point of the chapters. Introduction. An introduction is typically written for a wider readership than the bulk of the thesis. So shorter than the bulk of the thesis, and explain what the thesis is about. Establish a context within the broad area of research. So what you call, in common terms, maybe a subtitle is going to be background of the thesis. What is a problem being investigated? That's what we usually call the problem statement. So we establish what we are. Are we doing a research on renewable energy? Are we doing a research on vaccination? So this is background. Now, what is a problem? What is your problem with vaccination? Do we need to go for third wave, vaccine and so on, for third jab whatsoever? So it's discuss what is the problem. Put the problem clearly in front of the reader. Okay, so this is what we call the knowledge gap. We don't have information. This is where we are going to do research. We have a knowledge gap. Next is, so you know what is a problem. Now, not like all Mauritians, so we have problem here, problem here, problem here, problem here. What is your proposal? What are you trying to achieve in this research? So you know the problem, very good. Now, what do you want to achieve? Are you going to solve the problem? Are you going to elucidate it? Are you going to look for more information? So this is what we call the aim and objective. Okay, so these are objectives or a step to achieve the aim. The aim is you have the problem. This is what you are trying to do, your aim. Now, how do you go about achieving the aim? It's a series of steps. This is what we call the objective. Objective now should be specific, measurable, and achievable. You can go that smart goal, okay, but should be specific, measurable, and achievable. It shouldn't be like too open-ended. Why is it so important, significant? This is your motivation of doing the research. What is included or excluded? What you call the scope? Are there any constraint? Are there any assumption? Maybe you're doing your work on vaccination. Is it limited to Mauritius only, or you are going toward the world? It's opening up. Okay, so the constraint is maybe for the Mauritius population, maybe for those aged above 60 years old. Okay, these are your constraints, your assumption. You can list that. This is what we call the scope. What is your plan? What is the thesis structure? How many chapters are you going to have? Okay, basically, most of the time, the introduction is between 5 to 10 pages long. Okay, so each chapter should have an introduction and summary. We discussed about that already. So I'm just going to give you, at times students, they write, okay, this chapter, so chapter number 2 is going to be the literature review and so on and so on. So at times it is boring. So this is on what you have on the left is what I had from my MBA work. So I put it in a small like annotation like this, like small figure. Chapter number 1, introduction, maybe a short term here. So chapter number 1 introduces the topic of the dissertation and sets the stage for the background of the research problem, the problem statement, the aims, what we have just discussed. Chapter number 2 takes a reader through an in-depth discussion of the pertinent literature, reviewing the fundamentals as well as the elaborate patati patata. So I put it, maybe the same would have been in paragraph, but it may appear bulky. So you put a small figure, arrows and so on. You should, it is a way, this is what I've done. So I'm not telling you it should be, this is the way. So this is, try to use your imagination as well. This was for my MBA. And this is what I did for my PhD, introduction and literature review. So I published my literature review. Number 3 is methodology, what I've used. Chapter number 4, so different impacts which I had and where I have published these works and so on until I read the conclusion. Okay, so use your imagination as well to work it out. Chapter number 2 now, part 2, literature review. So so this is what said by Sir Isaac Newton. If I have seen further than others, so he discovered lots of things. He said that again, humility, okay? It is by standing upon the shoulders of giants. It's not his own work. He admits that others have laid the foundation. Then he had jumped on them or stood on them and he has been able to see further. This is what we do again in research. So we do a literature review. To be approached in this literature review should be approached in a systematic and organized manner to maintain a cohesive, okay, logical flow while unraveling the topic. So we need to plan how we are going to do the literature review. Should be systematic. It's not we are just getting an idea here. It's going to be a mosaic. The literature review is going to be a mosaic. You get an idea. Oh, this looks interesting. You grab the idea here, then you put it and you leave it for the reader to just try to understand where is the head, where is the tail. Okay, so it should be cohesive, logical flow. Maybe you talk about the introduction, you define it, the advantages, disadvantages, tac, 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 logical flow while unraveling. So it's a story, you're telling a story. Make it beautiful. Be Karan Johar. I don't know who else, but ki Karan Johar, kuch kuch hota hai, and so on. Okay, so adopt a funnel approach, starting wide. What is the broad term? Then you try to go down to what is the context, where is the problem you're going to address, your problem statement. Remember your problem statement? So funnel approach, big, maybe background and so on across the world. Then you say, okay, this has been studied. You come to where you are exactly. And then important, what are the words you're getting, what are the different works, views, works and contribution from other researchers. You're paying tribute, you're being humble, you're getting their ideas and you're understanding the whole picture based on their ideas. Then it's not only about collecting information. No. Then you're going to say copy paste and so on. It's going to be a mosaic. No, you need to have what there. This is where you get the marks. Developing critical thinking. You need to collect, very good, compare. Mr. Irfan said so in his research. Then you had Muzakir who said this one in his research. These are contradictory. Which one is going to be true for Mauritius? This is what we are going to try to find for maybe Irfan did that for Dubai, Muzakir did that for Pakistan, whatsoever. And then we are going to see which one is true for Mauritius. So you collect information, you compare. This is what you call critical thinking. You contrast. Maybe we have maybe different approaches, different climate and so on. You contrast existing knowledge about the topic. Okay, a common loophole is not to conduct an extensive literature. Okay, at times you say, okay, let's say we need to have 20 pages for literature. You have been able to grab the copy paste, patata, formatting and so on. Very good, but you miss. Okay, at times you miss due to extensive literature review. That's incomplete as well. Then you have biased views. You have seen only from one direction. Maybe we're talking about vaccination. You can't like say, okay, this people, so many people have died, patati patata, but then say maybe on the positive side as well. We are not here to judge. Literature review is not to judge. Okay, we are going to prove, we are going to do experiment, we are going to do maybe questionnaire to find what is the current scenario for our problem. But then we need to balance the approach in the literature review. Okay, so don't get like biased views only one side of the story. Try to listen to whatever different people has been telling, saying, researching, the contribution for this topic in literature. So the conclusion to this chapter, remember each chapter should have a, not a conclusion, but summary, but here it is a summary, should lead clearly to the research. So you are leading when you're concluding literature review, you're already introducing as such. Remember the last sentence, the serial is give you an overview of what's coming in the next episode. Okay, so give you an whole episode, an overview of what's coming, not overview, but a short insight and a small taste of what's coming in the next chapter. Okay, which is research hypothesis or research question. Okay, there you go, methodology. So method refers to specific techniques and methodology refers to the stance you are taking as a researcher. There's a difference. Okay, just be careful about, we don't interchange method and methodology. Methodologies vary hugely depending on field of study. So this chapter, while introduction is generally maybe similar, okay, that was all the different fields. Literature review basically is the same for different fields. Research method is most likely different. If you're doing engineering, it's going to be different because you're going to do simulation, you're going to do hardware parts, software programming, and so on. For maybe if you're doing an MSc, an MBA, okay, or a different degree, maybe low degree and so on, it's going to be different. You're going to do case studies, you're going to do interviews, what we call questionnaires and so on, different other types of studies, but you have a chapter on research methodology. What do you need to have in this chapter? To discuss the various possible research methods. Okay, which one you are going to use? Yes, but before that, tell us what are the different means of collecting data. Then which one you're, so compare them, advantage, disadvantage, and say which one you're going to use. Important part, which one you're and why. Don't just pick, oh, everyone is doing questionnaire, I'm doing the questionnaire myself. No. Okay, you need to say exactly why. What is the advantage? Why? Maybe the population too low, then it's better. And who says that? You need to add a bit of referencing as well here. Justify the choice of methodology with clear reason. Experimental validation requires an experimental design. Explain and justify it in detail. Ethical consideration, if you are using questionnaire, what are ethical considerations? Should it be confidential or you're just going to put all the results on Facebook also? Okay, you should say how you're going to ensure confidentiality. Okay, choice of sample, who are we going to choose? Maybe we're going to have a study on which is the best university in Mauritius, but you're going to limit your sample to University of Technology. So is with that be going to be like a good sample to take, or should you be taking maybe 20% from UTM, 20% from UM, 20% of UCLan, 20% of I think Amity and different universities that you have around. So choice of sample, how you have come to this choice of sample, then maybe a pilot study. And what do I have next? Demographics data. Okay, is it male, female, age group? Everyone I think likes to have it in your what we call a questionnaire. So, but why do you use that? How are you going to use that? It's not like a common template. Male, female, maybe where do you live? And then what do you have? What is your salary scale? Are you married or not? This maybe you can use that afterward. No. We need to link that to our study. Why are we collecting whether it's male or female? Can it impact the study? Okay, so maybe next time we can organize on questionnaire and so on. It's like a huge discussion itself on questionnaire, how to build a powerful questionnaire, but demographics data is important. Why you should be using, which one you should include in your research methodology. Okay, next one is data analysis and discussion. Okay, now we are going to collect data. Maybe let's take from questionnaire or our experiment. We are going to collect data. What do we do with this data? Okay, so data is gathered by the researcher. So the mode of collecting data is variable. It can be lab, it can be field worker and so on, or questionnaire. So we need to convert this data into information. Okay, complete collection of data forms the framework for the next step in research methodology. We process the data. When we process the data, we get information. Okay, the resulting arguments are used to build. So information, we use, okay, this is the way people have been, most people, the average, maybe the mean is us responding to this question in such a way, they're agreeable, they're disliked, unlike, I don't know what to use for Likert scale and so on. So then you build knowledge. Based on information, you're going to create, you're going to pull out deduction, which we call new knowledge. So presentation, do not include raw, undigested data in the body of. This is where you should drop that into the appendix. Okay, raw data that you're collecting should be in the appendix, not in the chapter number 4. Identify the correct data representation, can be chart, tables, figures, diagram, pie chart, whatsoever, to present the data in a systematic way. Okay, very good. So you have a variety, a panoply, a catalog of technique, data representation. Which one are you going to use? When do you use pie chart? When do you use histogram or bar chart? Which one is the best suited for this maybe study you are doing or this question you are analyzing? You should be aware about that. A few examples for you, tables. Every table should be given a number and an explanatory heading on top. In engineering, we were based on IEEE, on journals and so on, this heading is in capital. So, but usually it is said that capitalization is just like you're shouting. Okay, again, just check what your university is advising you. Okay, for me, I use capitalization because I stick to IEEE guidelines, okay, and the university as well. But see what your university for tables. For figures, there's no issue. But remember, for tables, the heading is on top, okay, of the table. So the table should be referred into in the main text. You should not just put a table here, just like a decoration in your report. You should refer maybe table one. I think I have it here. It should be included in the main text only after having been mentioned in the preceding paragraph. You should not be having the table. You don't know where it comes from, but the explanation of the tables come maybe a few paragraphs below. No, you should be referring table number 1 depicts then you see table number 1 below. Okay, so it should be as far as possible self-explanatory. What does that mean, self-explanatory? This is where you lose a lot of marks. In chapter number 4, you're going to put your data in a table also. Then you say technology undergraduate 3.27. You're writing humanities 11.1.11 finals. So you are describing the table. No. This is not what should be. You can't put a table and then you describe the table. The table should be self-explanatory. People should already get the information. Not you should be explaining technology undergraduate. No. This should not be the way. Okay, the table should be explanatory. What is the value you need to add now? You need to say most of the participants have answered maybe number 1 or have disliked this question whatsoever. Okay, all the rows and columns should be properly labeled. What is the row about? What is the column about? Should be properly labeled. These are the loopholes or the intended patterns or trend visible. At times in table, you don't see trend. So what do we need to do then? Go to the graph. When you plot it, if you can, you're going to see trends. This is a difference. When do we use table? When do we use what we call graph? And you can't choose both. You can't use table and graph. You need to select for each question you're tackling. You need to have either a table or a graph or an illustration, not different things. Okay. For figures, every figure should be given a number like figure 2.1, 2.3, and so on, an explanatory caption at the bottom of the figure. Okay, refer to it in the main text. Maybe figure 3.1 shows, illustrates, displays, portrays, different terms that you can use. If taken from a secondary source, you have pick up this figure from a secondary source, from a book, from the website, and so on. Reference it properly. Loophole again. Reference your figures or tables if need be. Clear, visible, fully labeled, good quality, not blurred or pixelated. The figure should be clear. At times when we borrow it from maybe a book on PDF, you copy and paste it there, it is a bit blurred, pixelated. So you can change that. Or you can, if possible, if you can draw it again, maybe it's like some triangles, arrows, and so on, draw it on your own. Still, if you draw it on your own, you have taken the idea from there, you should reference it as well. Self-explanatory, appropriate scale, legend, axes must be labeled. Graph and so on. Does the graph have the axes? Important thing for graph, I think we learned that from secondary school, should have axes well labeled. Is a text legible? At times when we try to put it too small, the text are not legible. Try to increase the size. Or lines and other features appropriately labeled. Okay, like here in the figure, you know what is male, what is female. It's good. Okay, I think you have it here. If we're using colors, maybe you're going to put male as blue, female as red. Then, but it can happen that someone is reading the report in grayscale. How will they be able to understand which one is male, female? So at times, try to use this type that we have in the legend here. The legend should be available. Okay, and now let's try to maybe comment on this one. You have a pie chart. So if you have a title, that's very good percentage of vote. You have the national, green, labor, and so on. So what is missing in this pie chart? Number one, you don't have a figure caption. You don't know what it has a title, yes, but you don't have a caption. Next, incomplete title. So what is percentage of vote? Is it for the US election? Is it for the campus at UTM? So it is incomplete. Add additional information. What are the percentages? We can see visually, but we don't have a, maybe this one is 59%. We don't know. You need to add the percentages. The colors, it's hard to match. So which one is maybe NZ first? We don't know. We need to look. Maybe this one. Yeah, most likely. So it's hard. Try to put it where it is. Okay. And then maybe cut here or add a text here. This one is national. This one is green and so on. So this is how you can improve the graph. This one, okay, how can we comment on this one? You will see that this one, it does not start at 0. So when you see it's like, oh, this is going up, it's huge difference. Okay. However, when you add the 0, you can see that it is basically, there is a trend, but it's not pronounced on this one. This as well, you see, oh, it's this huge difference, but no, it's very small difference when you add the 0. So these one should be avoided, and this is how you should be representing your data. Okay, this one, okay. Okay, you have it here and here. No, this one is okay, but what is this extra space around here? Maybe you should stop it as 25, and then you expand this one, and you can see a different difference between these different values here. So this one, not necessary. So try to expand this one, and you get much more information, valuable information on this figure. We clear this now. Let's proceed. Discussion on the findings. All findings from the data analysis process should be discussed by comparing with the findings of the literature. Okay, we have the literature review, remember? Okay, where we compare, we contrasted and so on. The findings that we are having now, what do we do? Okay, maybe the favorite color was green in maybe in Europe, was black in maybe Australia. So in Mauritius, we are seeing maybe pink. So try to compare, why is it so? Okay, so just a silly idea, but how do we discuss? So establish and show the link. So if you are discussing about maybe renewable energy is good, you have sunlight and so on. So did you discuss that in the literature review? And in the findings, you are saying maybe same, okay, in the same line, or contradictory, compare, link these two. This is what is going to bring you much marks. Have the knowledge gap identified in the literature review been addressed? Remember, you identified the problem statement is a knowledge gap. Then you build an aim, an objective, how you want to approach this problem. Now you have found this find, you have got the findings. Have the findings been able to answer the question that you have asked? The results can be as planned. Okay, this is what we expect, or contradictory. But in either case, explain. Maybe it's due to the limitation. We don't have the full sample size, limitation whatsoever, but explain why it is so different. Or it is same, why is it same as well? This is important, the why. In discussion on finding, you should not be describing the graph. Okay, the graph over here is self-explanatory. You should say, what is the meaning? What can we infer from this graph and relate it, link it to what we found in the literature review. This is what is going to give you maximum mark. Last one, conclusion. Reiterate the main findings of the research. So chapter number 4 was on the findings. You discuss the different findings. Maybe you had 20 questions in your questionnaire. Okay, 20 analysis, and then you have the 20 findings. Now you group all these findings, you put that in the conclusion. Reiterate the main findings of the research from your conclusion that you have discussed in the chapter before. Establish the logical link between the research aim and the finding. Remember, which is a starting point, the aim and then the findings. How are they linked? How have you been able to achieve that? One way why I do that is that I repeat. Maybe I had an objective to define what is a maximum percentage of renewable energy in Mauritius. This was my objective. I put it in the conclusion. Then I say, what am I finding? This is what the researcher is going to look for. Have you been able to achieve the aim? So I put it in front of him clearly. So this was my objective, and this is what I've been able to achieve. Okay, that's it, clear. And it can't go wrong. Okay, reference of the limitation of your work. Okay, maybe it is limited to Mauritius, maybe it's limited to Port Louis only, to QPIP only. So maybe try to see what are the limitations, the constraint of your work. Suggest any possible maybe improvement or future work as well. Okay, this form part of the conclusion. Comment on the implication. Where can you use that? Does it have like a practical use? Should it be used, or should we try to do another research on different maybe aspect? Okay, so what are the implications of your research? Maybe if you're investigating into having a third maybe jab, a third vaccine, different vaccine. So your conclusion says that it cannot be done. Okay, it is dangerous. So what is the implication? You should inform the ministry as soon as possible. You need to inform the different organizations working on that. Okay, implication of your research. Then the conclusion chapter should have a summary as well. Okay, now the conclusion, introduction, we said around, I think 5 pages to 10 pages, I think. The conclusion should be around 3 to 5 pages, maximum 5 pages. Okay, should be crisp and concise, to the point. Okay, this is the summary of what we've did in terms of the thesis structure, introduction, literature review, methodology, synthesis, or discussion, and then conclusion. Same slide. Now, in terms of marking, why it's so important to cover all these. Introduction, problem statement, aims, and so on is going to give you 10% of the total marks. Plus minus, basically around the world, it's around 10% from the introduction. Have you been able to identify the problem correctly? Have you been able to get the aim, scope, and objective, and the thesis overview? Remember, chapter number 1, we're going to discuss for this one. Chapter number 2, we describe it, what we are going to go through the report, 10 marks. Literature review is around 20 to 25 marks. Basically, let's put that 20 marks, literature review. Huge, 20 marks, huge. Methodology, what are the different method applicable? Why have you chosen this one? 10 marks. Synthesis, you have got your graph, appropriate graph, relevant graph for tables, figures, illustration, whatever you want to choose, and you discuss on the graph. You don't describe the graph, you discuss, you infer information from the data, information, knowledge. Then the conclusion is 20%. Conclusion and recommendation, 3 to 5 pages. 20%. 20% for the conclusion for 5 pages. But remember, if you just put the different aims and objectives you have listed in chapter number 1, you answer all these based on your findings, you get all 20% full marks. Conclusion and recommendation. So if you add that, it's going to add to be 90 marks, isn't it? So it should be 100 marks. So where is the 10% of marks? There you go. Referencing, and the last 10% is on the referencing and the general presentation of your report. Remember what we have been doing since the beginning about the academic writing, how tables should be. These are what you get marks for, that 10% of the mark. So 10% is huge. If you manage to do the referencing correctly, if you abide to the correct academic writing, so you get 10%, sure, 100% of these. So it can shift your grade from B to A, from A to A plus, these 10%. It's easy to get. Okay, don't forget about it. So quickly, we have around 10 minutes remaining. I'm just going to run through the main aspects of referencing. Okay, so research data is too hard when we are going to do research, which is based on 2 things. One is primary data. Then we have secondary data. So secondary data is data that we get in literature review. Okay, we collect from different authors already published data. Primary data is what we are going to look for, maybe through experiment, few questionnaires, through case study, and so on. So it's normal, okay, to look for information, but we should be aware. Use of others' work is allowed. Okay, as Isaac Newton said, okay, he has been able to see further because he has a good foundation. People have already worked a bit on that, but you're going to push the field of knowledge slightly more. Okay, so acknowledge the work of others. You can pick up from others, okay, for the literature review, okay, but then acknowledge, avoid the plagiarism track. So what is proper referencing? It shows your commitment, responsible researcher, seriousness to academic writing and to your own work. Okay, readers can refer to these references for further information. Maybe you're writing a phrase, maybe 10% of the world population is fully vaccinated, maybe World Health Organization 2021. Someone, he needs more information, you go through the reference, he's going to see, he can read the document further on. Okay, shows you have read widely. So it's going to show that you have read from different, so if you don't put any reference, how will they know that, okay, you have read from this or only one document, you get all the answer. So you should demonstrate that you have read widely. And you get marks for proper referencing. Not only marks, it's going to give a good impression about you. When you start reading a report, I go directly to the referencing. Okay, plagiarism, act of deliberately or inadvertently presenting someone else's ideas as your own. Okay, you collect, you copy the information there, and if you copy, you say, okay, this is, you put a reference, so you acknowledge that is from. But if you say, no, it's my own work, okay, this is what we call plagiarism, and this is dramatic. Okay, it may lead to disciplinary action. You can be kicked out of the university. Okay, and your degree, even it's not only about you may even be graduated, but then they have seen plagiarism later on. You're going to be devoid. You're going to remove your degree. PhDs has been like that. Okay, they have been awarded PhD, but ultimately they saw that maybe there's a case for plagiarism. Okay, and they're going to lose their PhD degree as well. So avoid plagiarism through proper referencing. So what is referencing? Is a standard practice of acknowledging information sources in academia. It is acceptable to pick up information for literature review, even for chapter number 3. Chapter number 4 is your own work. Okay, 2 and 3, you can collect information, but acknowledge, my friend, acknowledge. So what is a style? It is most universities going to use what you call the Harvard style. In journal publication, you can use the 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on, but here is going to be about Harvard style. Harvard style is split into 2. We have one part which is in-text citation. Second one is bibliography. In-text and bibliography, 2 types. So there are slight variation in Harvard style. What I'm going to present today, I think it's come from the most likely University of Mauritius, I don't know, but should be the same. But like variation can be in a comma, maybe which one is italic, small one, but whatever style you're using. It is Harvard, but universities can have different, maybe small changes that they do. But if you stick to one style or one maybe university approach, do it throughout. Don't attempt to choose a University of Mauritius. At times you see UCLan, at times it's different, UTM and so on. No, stick to one. Remember, keyword is consistency. Since the beginning, we have mentioned consistency. Step, record accurately. Software or manual, I record manually. Okay, I put that in the document, the main document that I'm working. Nowadays, you have so many software which you can use, but record. Like if you're accessing a website, you will need to know what is the date of access. So it's not after you are writing late that you do, and I should have noted. No. You should to be aware to be able to take all this information on board. Organize systematically. So those who use software and note Mendeley and so on, you can do so, but I use manually. I still stick to my manual way and has been working for me. Cite appropriately using the guidelines, what we are going to see. Reference properly using the correct punctuation and consistency. Remember consistency and the punctuation. Punctuation is so important in referencing. So you can paraphrase. So when you say you pick an idea from someone else. So it's not like you're going to pick the sentences full. You borrow it, you drop it there, and then you put it. You put commas, inverted commas there, and that's it. So you say reference is there, it's okay. No. You can't, this is a quotation, a quote. A quote is something that, okay, let's say Martin Luther King said, I have a dream. So you can't change I have a dream. Maybe I had an interesting idea. So you are paraphrasing. It doesn't meet the sense, the purpose of this phrase. So powerful, I have a dream. Okay, so if you try to have a powerful idea and so on, it's not going to work. So you will need to stick to these words. Then you're going to use a quote. But paraphrase means, let's say, I think you have a few examples here. Let me just check. So let me read it first. You paraphrase when you change the information read into your own words. So you pick up the idea, but you arrange that in your own words without changing the, maybe say percentage, like 95% of Mauritians have diabetes. Okay, it is written in l'Express newspaper. Now you're not going to pick up the same word. You can say in Mauritius, it has been reported that 95% of the population have diabetes or have been diagnosed with diabetes. So the main point is the 95% diabetes Mauritius, but you arrange that in your own words. This is what we call paraphrase. It shows that you understand the writer is saying, and it fits more in your starting style. Example, I've given you an example, but you can read that again. Now, important thing to note, only a few slides on referencing. Parameters to note, I've written it here. In-text citation, remember, Harvard is in two, in-text and then the list of reference. So in-text, according to British Consulate Guide, he's the author. His surname only is written, not his initials and so on, only the surname, comma. So we have only one author here, comma, the year. Then you can add the page number, P.37, you close bracket. Or if no date is available, you say guide, the author, comma, no date. Or if maybe the date is, you don't know exactly, but you can expect an approximate date, you say circa, okay, you put a small c, dot, 2001, you close back. So it is an approximate date that you can put. Oops. So in-text citation, if you have books by the same author in the same year, it's going to be maybe Kubler, this is the surname, comma, 1993. So you have different, the same author has published two different maybe papers in the same year. So you can't differentiate it. You just put a small a and small b. This is first part A, that is the in-text citation. The second part of a complete Harvard system is to have the references. So this one is going to be guide. This one is in capital. It is a surname, comma, the initials. He has only one maybe name. Okay, you just initial, full stop. Okay, then you have the comma, you have the year, full stop. The what we call the title is in italics. Okay, remember these are important. The punctuation, the capitalization, what is in italic and so on are important in referencing. Okay, and then you put it the different things that you have as you have here, never published and so on. Next one, we have two authors. It's going to be Race and Why 2003. Okay, so research by Banerjee and Watson 2001 suggests this is how you can write it in text citation when you are in your main text. Now, in terms of your reference list, is going to be Banerjee, remember capitalization, and Watson 2001. Then you write the different information that you need for this one. So one author we have seen, two authors we have seen. Now let's say when we have three, when we have more than three. Again, here you need to be careful. The correct way is when you have more than three, okay, that is 4, 5, 6, you use étal. Étal is an italic word for and more. Okay, so étal is used when you have three, more than three authors, not three, but more than three. However, some universities say that you use étal as from three authors. So when you have one or two, just as we have just seen, but as soon as you have three, you use étal. So what is étal? How do we use that? You just give in the in-text citation, you give the first surname of the main author. Okay, you always have the main author. You just give the surname. Then whatever the different authors coming after, you don't put their surname. You don't just put et al. In the past, et al was written in italics. Nowadays, it is normal like this one. Okay, you need to put that in italics. Then you put, but you have a full stop of the al. Then you put the year. Okay, but in the list of reference, you don't choose et al. You need to put all the surname and the initials fully. For all, if it has 20 authors, you need to put all 20 authors. Okay, so et al is only applicable for in-text citation, and for the reference list, you just put all the different authors. Newspaper article, okay, important thing for the authors and so on we mentioned, you need to know available at, because someone can refer to this one where, so available at, you need to point toward this one. So when you're getting information, you're collecting information from website and so on, collect this information for your referencing as well. And then the date it was accessed. These two are important when you're accessing online material. Okay, again, digital repository, okay, where you can find it. And this one is for individual author website as well, again available at access on, important things to note. Journal article, I think we mentioned. And then there's here, I just wanted to have a small discussion on DOI. It's new, I think for the past 2 or 3 years, it's new now. And DOI is digital object identifier. Okay, it's an easier way, okay, for us to identify publication and so on. So if you have it, put it as well. Then common errors, okay, punctuation, we talk about punctuation, the comma and so on. So you need, when you're going to finalize your reference list, when you're writing, it's okay, you just get the information, but then you need to sit down. It may take you 1 week to just finalize it the proper way for the referencing. So put that in your Gantt chart as well. You are going to see where to put the comma as per the guidelines given to you by the university. Common errors is over reliance on a specific source. So let's say in one page, you have 5 sentences where you have reference, but all of them come from the same author. So it's going to show, because it's going to have create an impression that you're over relying on a specific source, and this is going to lead towards bias. So try not to have more than 3 same reference on one page. It can be on different pages, okay, but have one, then look for one maybe contradictory or one which can add value, maybe moreover and so on. You have different authors sharing the same idea, not one author. You have only one author for your different references or source. Is going to create bad impression. Now, all references, what is all? Again, it is subjective. Let's say for IT skills, IT work and so on, 3 years, it may be old. All references, all sources, but maybe for engineering, 3 years, it's maybe quite new. Maybe for if you're reading, if you're doing maybe languages, maybe Latin, you're referencing Latin, 1960 is quite new, because Latin hasn't been changing for years and decades, centuries. Latin has been here. So all is quite subjective. So you will need to know your field, and you need to have, as far as possible, recent references. Okay, very important, else you're going to lose credibility. Your resources should be crop. Your sources, what you're going to use should be crop. What is crop now? Okay, current, that is still, the information is still valid. It's not obsolete, it's not revised, it's not updated. Check all these. It should be relevant. Does it relate to the subject you are doing? It should be credible. Authoritative, so does it come from Wikipedia, a blog, maybe someone else, maybe Zuleika is going to start a blog soon, and she's going to write different things and so on. So it is her views, okay, but can we like pick up these ideas and say, okay, this is like an authority speaking? No, most likely not. But if you have maybe Robin Sharma, a well-known author in leadership, okay, author and speaker, so maybe he has a blog, and you can pick up information because it is authority. He is representing some authority. Okay, so be very careful about where you're picking your sources. Accurate, all the data validated and supported by research finding. Okay, check where have they, or is it like an opinion they are sharing? Okay, so check, maybe everyone should not be doing the 3rd dose of vaccination. Who said so? This guy. So has he done any research on that? Or even so, just check whether these are validated. Purposeful, a fact, opinion, persuasion. At times it's more marketing. So just trying to share their opinion is more propaganda. So just be careful and not to be biased by this. So your sources should be crop. The list of references now should be in alphabetical order and not numbered. Remember, alpha, the list of, so we talk about the in-text referencing. Now we are talking about the list which comes afterward. In the last, after the conclusion, we have the list of reference, which we call at times the bibliography as well. So it should be in alphabetical order, not numbered. In journal publication and so on, we numbered it, but here it's not numbered. So common loophole, not referencing paraphrase part. We talk about paraphrasing. Okay. Now, in terms of the in-text, Smith is a surname only, not the initial. We see that a lot where students try to put, and there's not Dr. Smith, Associate Professor Smith. No, it's Smith. That's it. Okay. And I think we mentioned all these. Now we have finished with conclusion, referencing. Now at times we have annex or appendix. There's a difference between annex and appendix. So annex is a document, a standalone. No need for you to refer from the text. Maybe say it's a letter you have had, maybe a newspaper clipping, just an annex. But an appendix is referred to from the main source. So maybe the information was too bulky, too raw over there to put in the main text. You prefer to put that in the appendix, and you're going to refer to that from the main text. So it's the main difference between annex and appendix. Okay, I think I just talk about that. So what can form part of your appendices can be a letter of approval to conduct a dissertation or survey. Maybe if you are pinpointing a specific industry or company to do your survey over there, you need to ask for approval, and this approval should form part of your appendix. A derivation or a full derivation of a kind of an equation, maybe software that you have written, lines of code, pilot questionnaire, copy of final questionnaire, repository of raw data, all these should be in your appendix. And remember, appendix, you should be numbered, and then should have a title as well to explain. Just throw it there for the reader to try to guess what it's all about. Put it properly. Now, last section, if you give me maybe 5 more minutes, we are going to complete that. The examiner's view. Okay, this is how we perceive. You have submitted your report, but how is it? What does the examiner see, look for in your report to mark you? Only, I think, 5 slides and it should be done. So examiners mark as per guidelines provided by the university. So you have a marking scheme. So this is how the university, the examiner is going to mark it. Why don't you look for this guideline? Why don't you look for the marking scheme? Ask, and you are going to be given it. You are going to be given. Ask the exam section or your registry, they are going to give you. If you know the guidelines, you will know exactly what are they looking for. It's not like negative marking. They're not going to put cross. They're going to say, okay, this is good. They're going to put marks here. This is positive marking. So the next information which I'm going to share, it's fundamental. It's like golden nugget. So what examiners do, what thesis students should know. So these guys, okay, these 3 authors, they have compiled, okay, they have questions, they have research about how does examiners, maybe supervisors or examiners mark dissertation. Okay, what are the common ways of thinking? Okay, and if you know that, you can know how to, maybe if you're looking for good referencing, give good referencing. Okay, if you're looking for maybe a good academic writing, give them correct academic. If you give them, this is how you're going to get maximum mark. Okay, basically simple, maybe just have 5 minutes, you just give me a report. Within 5 minutes, I can tell you what will be the grading of this report. We use triangulation. This is my slide, okay, not from these 3 authors. So in-text citation, I just checked the in-text citation and the references. This is going to give me an aperçu, an idea about what is the content, okay, of this report. Is it okay? Is it like hardworking student or not? The English language, clarity and punctuation, spelling, I will just check that whether the paragraph are justified. Again, I'll just have an idea about the student. Then the conclusion, does it align with the aims? Remember, we had to link the conclusion to the aim. If 5 minutes, I just check this, I can tell you plus minus 60% or 70% probability that this guy is going to get an A, B, or a C. Okay, it's called a triangulation. This is my approach. Okay, it has been working. So all these shed light on your work. Okay, let's see what the examiners do. I'm just going to, no, I'm not going to read through it, but maybe share the idea. So first is consistency. So it tends to be, so examiners, they have common goals, ultimately, what we call the universal qualities of a dissertation. This is what we covered today. Okay, like it doesn't change from institution to institution, from nationality to nationality, maybe a British marker, an Indian marker. No, these are common discipline that we are going to find. So there is a consistency in marking. It's not like the British guy, they are going to mark you more severely. No. There is a common understanding, but it is here like a universal qualities of a dissertation. What examiners expect for a thesis to pass. Okay, so examiners, they start reading your thesis. Remember this well, this is important. They start reading the thesis with curiosity and enthusiasm. It's not like, I have a bad day today, I'm going to read your dissertation. No. They start with a curiosity. Oh, this looks interesting. Let's read it. So they start with this maybe philosophy and attitude, hoping to find their task rewarding, and they're looking to have fun in your report. So make them have fun. Go through it. Remember, make it a story, pleasing. Remember the different connecting words and so on. So they know they have taken months, years to do your thesis. So at least they expect it to pass. They want it to pass. They want to make you pass. Don't make them fail you. Okay. Examiners are reluctant to fail it. They find it hard. This guy has done so much. They don't want to fail this thesis. They consider thesis a pass until it is failed. So they start, it's not like the Mauritian law. So you are regarded as a culprit, okay, unless maybe you can prove yourself maybe innocent. This is like the contrary, basically. Okay, so they are going to put a temporary charge on you. They can put you in jail and so on. You need to prove that you have not done so. So no, this one is different. They start with the idea that I'm going to pass, I'm going to make the student pass. Now, if you put the LIT in, the paragraphing is not correct, referencing very bad. So you are forcing them, hey, guy, fail me. Okay, no, make it easy for them. Okay, so only 1% of examiners recommend they fail, less than 1%. So basically, it is positive. They start with a positive mindset. So make it like be pleasing for them during the marking style. Okay, first impression, I talk about that. First 2 chapters. So be very careful. Again, the cover page. Very careful, be maybe 1 hour just to check your cover page if need be. Then the table of contents, the introduction, and the first 2 chapters. Introduction, remember, second chapter is on literature review. Okay, so this is going to basically, if someone has read these parts, they can make like 90% idea about how they are going to mark you. Okay, so these are going to set the pace, the first impression for your thesis. So make it enjoyable for them. A treat and not an endurance. Oh my God, I need to read another page of this. There's so many English problem, language, spelling, and so on. Don't make it hard for them and for you as well. Okay. Next is academic writing. We discussed, I think, for 1 hour on academic writing. Okay. So examiners may read in the evening. Okay. At times they use maybe over several days. So make it easy with correct way and a correct structure. The flow should be well written. They are irritated and distracted by presentation errors. Okay, let's just say you're watching a movie and every 5 minutes you get a what we call a reclam. Okay, so how will that be? You're just going to the flow of the movie and then publicity. 5 minutes more, you get into the film, interesting, publicity. This is what the punctuation and maybe the distraction comes in, the punctuation, bad referencing, and so on. So it's going to make the examiner like no longer like to mark your report. So they can become frustrated, irritated, and so on. So be very careful about this academic presentation. We have spent 1 hour today explaining about academic writing and so on. So be very careful about this. Favor coherent dissertation. So what do we have in this one? So this is especially important for an examiner reading a thesis in Czech. So as I said in chapter number 1, when you're concluding it, you have a summary. So jot down maybe one last bit to see what is coming next. Introduce, give what is an overview, what is the next chapter is going to be like. Then the next time when they're going to read introduction to chapter 2, they see, okay, we have just completed introduction. What did we find there? And there's a flow in the document. Okay, again, it's a storytelling. Examiners favor thesis that engages with literature. Again, what is engages with literature? Remember, in literature review, we got different information from different sources. That's good. We have referenced that correctly. Very good. But then it is not only collecting information, it is critical engagement, criticizing this one. Why this one and this one? They are 2 diverging ideas. So we are studying all these 3 diverging ideas as well. This is what we call critical engagement, not copy paste. It's going to be like a mosaic. No. Make it interesting by critical engagement. This is where you get the maximum marks. And okay, 8, examiners favor thesis with a convincing approach. What is convincing approach? The methodology you have used. So is it a proper methodology? Remember, you have, I think, 10 to 15 marks on methodology. So is it a correct method? And so describe what are the different, the panoply, the catalog of methodologies which can be used and why you have chosen this one. Why is it so maybe the best one for this approach? Okay, define this and you should be meeting this criteria. Examiners favor thesis that engages with the findings. Remember, for the findings, you need to link that to the literature review, not the literature review and the aims and objective. So you've got the graph and so on, you deduce, then you need to say whether these are satisfying, okay, the aims and objectives of the report. This is what the engagers with the findings mean. Examiners require thesis to be published. Okay, this is for maybe a master's degree and maybe most likely PhDs as well, but first degrees are where students are publishing their work, which is good. So important part here is if you're doing a PhD or a master's, then so publish your work, maybe even a conference paper. Okay, publish your work. So then you are going to have a list of publication at the beginning, the preliminary period, put it there. So if your paper has been published, so it has been accepted by a peer review process. So can they now say that this is wrong? It is not correct? They can't, because it has already been through a process of approval. So it is adding value. So they can, okay, this is already, even though they may not be fully, maybe at times convinced with your approval, but this has already been viewed, okay, reviewed by a panel of peer review, blinded review. So then, okay, so this is going to add value, it's going to make your life much easier. So what I've done for my PhD, for each chapter, I've published a paper, a conference paper or paper. So what happens then? So all the different chapters have been published, have been accepted, are already online on IEEE portal. So can the external examiner see that the work is not correct? They will need to go through the difference. They will need to go by the general trend. Okay, this work has already been published and so on. So it's going to make their life easier. But this is mostly for masters and PhD work. Okay, now you will see at times you get feedback from the markers. So it's not like don't take it negative. So you need to have a good approach to feedback, to get to use this feedback. They will say at times you have 2 or 3 pages of comments. So take it positively. They are here to help you to improve your work. They're not here to at times to bang your head and so on, but they are here to improve your work. So make good use of the comments and feedback that you have from the authors. Okay, final word now. 4 main things that we have seen today for dissertation writing. First pillar was on academic writing. You have seen why is it so important, because the markers are going to look for that. It's going to help them go through your report smoothly. Else, it's just like every 5 minutes you have a publicity on the television, you're watching your favorite movie. It's not going to be pleasing. Second pillar was on thesis structure and content, from the cover, what you should have on the cover, to the appendix. Okay, and the different chapters, the abstract, we have seen all that. Okay, third pillar was on referencing. Okay, we discussed about the 2, what is citation, what is list of references and so on, and ultimately we shared the view of the examiner. Okay, so with this I complete. So it's slightly above time. I told you that it was going to be quite long, but it has been around maybe 2 hours or so. So I don't know, I've seen lots of questions and queries. I don't know if I'll be able to answer a few. So I leave it. I maybe go back to the MC. Maybe you can share a few comments, and I'll leave the floor to you, MC. Thank you, participant.
Thank you, Mr. Smile, for your great presentation on such an important topic. I'm sure it will be of great help to all of us. So now, guys, we will proceed towards the Q&A, whereby Mr. Smile will answer most of the questions. So we will look at the first question, which is, should it be organization or organization in a dissertation?
And can you come up again with a question?
Should it be organization or organization in a dissertation? The question is about the writing.
Okay, the way you need to organize a dissertation. I can't fully understand the question here.
I think you will have to. Can you please look at the Q&A? It is a way of writing the word organization.
Okay. I can see the question. Should it be an organization? Oh, it is a Z O N S. So it depends on whether you are submitting. Again, you have the English or the British English, or the what we call UK British or US English. Organize the Z and the S. Okay, depending on which institution. So depending, this is only the type of English that we are using. This is from Teddy, I think. Next one. So in this case, it is bad if one uses British writing long and it is using active and passive now. Okay, first part of this question. So it is in this case, is it bad if one uses a British way of writing? No, basically this is what we should, because most of us, I believe, in this presentation are attending British universities which are accredited maybe the British way. Okay, so we tend to have the British style of writing, so we should adopt the British style of writing basically. But if you are accredited to a US university, maybe then you will need to stick to. But anyway, whatever you are trying to do, stay consistent. If you stick to British English, go throughout consistently in British English to remain consistency. As if you are sticking to maybe American English, stick drastically like to American English to remain consistent. Using active and passive form. Yeah, so active and passive form, we discussed about that. For me, I will suggest go for passive voice. Okay, it's easier, it's better for our approach here. But there are some universities, I think elsewhere in the US, they ask students to go for active, because active is, okay, what have you done? I have done this study, I have this research and so on. But for me, it is, you can share the same information, but in a passive way. And it is more accepted usually, but depend on the university. Basically, the university is going to tell you whether to go for active or passive. But from what I've seen in Mauritius, it's mostly passive voice.
We got another question, but if we write simple short sentences, doesn't it seem like our writing is poor? So how to avoid that?
Okay, so the sentence should be around maybe 1 line or 2 lines, at most 3 lines. Okay, so if you write 2 short sentences, as we mentioned, it's going to be like bullet point. You're just saying, okay, this idea is going to feel like someone is reading bullet point, which is not a good impression that you're going to leave. Okay, so you should vary at times, but at times you can write a good proper English sentence with what we say maybe 5 lines. Okay, but it's not going to make sense, and it's not going to be, at times when you're reading, you have different ideas. For you, it's going to be easy because you know what you're doing, but for someone who is new to your work and so on, it may be hard to really go through that. And you have 2 or 3 in one paragraph, that's going to make life very hard.
Another question is, what is the weightage of marks for formatting? Because if in case someone missed a small guideline, how much point or percentage that student can use?
Okay, so formatting and referencing is 10%. Basically, most universities are have 10% for formatting and referencing. But the weightage is much more. Remember, the weight is here, but then the impression that is going to create is you're not marked on for that, but it's going to create, if you are not, well, you're going to lose these 10 marks. It is wrongly done, but the impression is going to leave is like something that we are going, it may like come up with ultimately you're losing different marks elsewhere as well.
Another question is, if we publish some work, does it necessarily need to be related to the dissertation if we include some of our works?
So it should be relevant. You can publish maybe work in different fields, you have different studies that you have done, but here we are talking about not like to give you a CV or different works you have published. No, it is work related to the dissertation that you have published, and which is going to be it's like relevant to the dissertation, not work that you have published for different fields and so on.
Now we will look at our last question for today's session, which is, how do we refer to a table in our discussion? Should we describe its nature, although it's quite self-explanatory?
So basically for the table or figure, we need to mention, we need to refer. This is very good. We need to refer. So table 1 shows the outcome of the maybe results of the maybe questionnaire question number 2 about maybe demographics data for Mauritius. Okay. Then in the figure, in the table, you need to add the different columns and rows and so on. Then you say, as seen in this table, the majority of the respondents have answered maybe positive or between 60 and 70 years. That's all. Or no need for you to say, like 25 participants answered, maybe between the age group 25 to 30. 25, maybe 30% of so and so on. No need to describe the table, but you should say what is the main idea. So introduce the table, then say what is the main, maybe the main, not objective, but the main finding, the main outcome from this table. Maybe you have seen a trend, okay, or like 90% of people are relevant, maybe, or have chosen this answer. This is what you need to highlight. That's it. No need to describe the table in words.
So now, guys, we have reached the end of this webinar. Thank you all for your attendance and wish you all a good night.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Take care. Good night. Thank you. Bye-bye.